everyone. Welcome to the E-commerce Fulfillment 101. This is Kim Taylor, and I'm with the Scarborough Group of Companies. We are an international freight forwarder and U.S. and Mexican customs broker. We are also an asset-based truck provider, as well as North American truck brokerage. We supply U.S. customs trade compliance and supply chain consulting. And we also have a warehouse distribution and fulfillment service available. And that is what we're going to talk about today. So I am here with Mark Harding. He's our corporate warehouse manager. And I am happy to have you because you bring a wealth of knowledge. So let's get started, Mark.
Thank you, Kim.
So what is fulfillment?
So simply put, fulfillment is just the process behind getting your orders from the website channel which you're selling them on, delivered directly to your customer. It entails the receiving process, the inspection of your goods when they come into the facility, the storage of inventory, processing of orders, meeting any sort of compliance needs that your goods have to ship through the given channel, and getting them physically ready, whether that's palletizing, boxing, crating, whatever the case might be, and loading them on the truck to ship to your customer or to your distributor. So the next thing we'll talk about is the different types of fulfillment. So there are a few main types when we're talking about order fulfillment. There is the self-fulfillment model, which is you are taking your online orders directly from your consumer. You have your own potentially manufacturing and your own warehouse directly on site in your own location where you hold your inventory, collect the orders, and then upon collection of the orders, you pick, pack, and ship all of the orders that you get all under one roof and ship them out directly to your customer, which could be directly to their house or to a distributor. Then there is the third-party fulfillment model, which is 3PL, where you have a consigned warehouse, which stores your goods for you, everything from receiving them, inspection, receiving your orders, processing your orders, taking those orders out on the floor, picking your material, meeting whatever compliances are required, pack, palletize, ship, and getting them out to either the customer or to a distributor. Then there's the Amazon FBA model, where you're sending bulk quantities of goods directly to Amazon on a consignment style basis. So you'd either send weekly or monthly POs directly to Amazon, and then the Amazon software is used to collect your orders directly from your customers, and then Amazon itself will ship your material on behalf of you directly to those channels. And they are responsible then for your inventory, storage, compliances, all of those kind of things. And the final model in that particular thing is drop shipping. So in the drop shipping model, the factory that actually handles the production of your goods is also responsible for the storage, picking, and packing and shipping of your material directly to the customer that orders it, whether that's your distributor or whether that is a direct end user. In the dropship model, the factory acts pretty much as the middleman for products which you never directly possess, and you're only pretty much processing the financial transactions from your customer, and then ensuring that your distributor gets their portion of the required profits in order to ship and fulfill the orders.
Mark, I have a question that came in. How does the size of your organization impact your fulfillment strategy? For example, is it best for smaller companies to outsource and or should we try to grow the knowledge in-house? What are your thoughts on that?
There's a few different things that go into all of that. So when you do a startup, there are definitely some advantages to at first controlling your processes. because you don't necessarily know what your market might look like yet, or the quality of your goods might not be a known entity yet when you first make them. So there are definitely some span of control advantages from doing when you're just doing a startup and only processing small amounts of orders, to having a direct line of control to all of your inventory, having the ability to be hands-on with all of it and control the quality and basically build your internal processes so you know what you expect, not only when it comes to shipping the goods, but you know what to expect when it comes to receiving the goods and inspecting them and all of those kind of things. The caveat to that is that a good 3PL that has been in the industry for any length of time can take those things that you are going to be doing, that inspection process, your receive process, your shipping processes, and they bring a ocean's worth of wealth of knowledge in regard to those types of things. So a good 3PL brings all of the historical knowledge that they have in regard to those inspection processes, the receiving processes, storage processes, everything from the labeling of the goods to the creation of barcodes and your part numbering system, and then all the compliances that go right along with it. So when you have small amounts of orders and you're kind of in a specialty industry, at first for your business, it may be advantageous for you to have that direct line of control. But once you get beyond a certain point of orders, and that point probably realistically is right around that 50 order a day mark, a 3PL is only advantageous for you to pursue and to basically get a working relationship with, because they can take all of the things that you're working through and spending all of your time on and not only complete them quickly and efficiently, they can also offer you other alternatives like relationships with different shipping carriers to substantially reduce your shipping costs, and add things to the process from an inspection standpoint, which the average person may not even be aware of initially.
That's fantastic, Mark. And I'm also going to throw out there that, and I'm going to offer you up, if you are looking at doing fulfillment with a 3PL, or you're really unsure of what, which way you want to head, this is something that you can contact Scarborough, and we are happy to set up a Zoom meeting and talk you through what is going to be best practice for your current situation. So we are offering free consultations just to find out your background and really help walk you through what will be best for you and where you're at today. So feel free to reach out to us after this. Our email will be at the end of this webinar on this page. So let's move on.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, every solution for every different client, irregardless of the industry that they're in, is customized to that client and to that particular product. There's really no box stock, one size fits all approach for anything, not only that we do, but that anyone should do.
Thanks, Mark.
So traditional warehousing versus order fulfillment. So in a traditional setting, when we're talking about warehousing solutions, you have essentially your supplier who's building the goods for you, and they bring a completed product essentially to market. Your goods go into a large bulk distribution center and then are sent in bulk to some sort of intermediary, whether that's the distribution center itself directly distributing the goods, or whether they're taken to a store in bulk, and then from the store, your customers are going to that direct source to purchase the goods. What that means is that there's a lot of inventory movements in this case, and they're all pretty much bulk movements of material from one bucket, as it were, to the next. Traditionally, in this case, your product doesn't generally sit in any one given area for a set length of time. It's all kind of based on what your customer is purchasing, what your commodity is, all of those kind of things. But there are lots and lots of opportunities in this case for cost to be added, because you're moving the material around to so many different intermediaries. And that means you're opening up, for the potential for damage, and there's a definite amount of risk involved there in that regard. When we're talking about order fulfillment, we're traditionally talking about basically the orders going from a supplier to some sort of distribution center that can handle all different models. They're not just handling bulk channel fulfillment. An order fulfillment center can handle obviously those bulk fulfillment models directly to something like Amazon FBA or something of that nature, but they can also handle even the smallest possible distribution method where you're sending one unit directly to an individual end user. And a good omni-channel distribution center additionally can handle everything from the inbound receipt of those goods, the inspection processes, the put away of the inventory, but also they can handle the compliance side, the order fulfillment and processing where they're actually doing PO management and things of that nature for your goods. So how does basic order fulfillment work? So when your cargo arrives to the United States generally, whether that is via air freight, ocean freight, whether it's truck, whatever the case might be, and it comes into your distribution point. One of the very first things that has to happen generally is that if the freight requires an inspection. So let's say we're coming full truckload of material or a full container of material backing up to the dock door. Typically what you see upon opening that is a basic inspection. Has this been tampered with? Is the seal still intact? So each container or truck will have a seal on it, and that seal has a certain number that comes directly from overseas and is on the documents, whether that's the bill of lading or whether that's your customs delivery order. So you would start that inspection process there. You inspect your seals. Upon removal of the seals, you move into your receiving process where you're directly receiving the freight. So that requires, in all cases, the freight gets unloaded. So whether your container is floor loaded or palletized, you go through a process where you unload it, you stack it up on the pallets, or you unload the freight, and then you do a further inspection that in a lot of cases will include a direct one-to-one count. And then you may do a quality inspection, which consists of, does this good, match what our paperwork says it is? And if it does the quantity match? This includes kind of the second part of the process, which is sorting, because in a lot of cases, the goods arrive mixed together to maximize the space inside the container of which they ship. So this requires your warehouse or 3PL to do a sorting process to segregate the goods into disseminations of a like kind altogether. And then once you do that, you do a systematic receipt of the goods to bring them into your warehouse management system. So that way the inventory shows up as available for sale. Then the goods are transported to their storage shelf, whether they're stored directly in a single bin position or whether they're stored in a bulk bin position. Just kind of depends on what exactly the goods are and what the commodity is. So then from that point, your goods sit on the shelf and kind of wait for orders to come through, essentially. So traditionally, when your goods are coming in, the goods that you just brought in aren't the goods that you sell. What you would want to do is sell any existing goods first. So that way you're doing kind of a first in, first out system to keep a few different things in place. One of those is revision control. So if you want to sell the older ones first, so that way if you have any sort of known failure method or issue with the good as it goes to market, then that way you can control which goods have hit the market and you can ensure what revision you're looking at to have that scope of the issue with. It also allows you to maintain the quality, because anytime you're storing goods in a warehouse and they're just sitting with humidity and all of those kind of things that can potentially affect your packaging, packaging, no matter what, best case breaks down over time. So you want to ensure your goods stay inside a warehouse in a stored position for as little time as possible, and that the oldest goods are always being sold first for that reason. The next part of the process going into step 2 is the order placement. So once the order is placed, whether that is through some sort of e-commerce website where you're shipping directly to an end user, or whether that is a PO order placement where you're sending bulk quantities, then the order is generated on your website. We would go into whatever that is, whether it's a .com website like Woot or Zola or Commerce Hub or Amazon, and retrieve that order from there from our warehouse management system, create all the compliance related labeling and pick orders for the material. From there, the order goes out to the warehouse floor, and the picker takes the order in queue and picks the order, packs the order, labels the order with any appropriate labeling, places it on a pallet, and then the pallet gets shrink wrapped and put together with any other orders which could possibly go in that PO channel, whether it's just a single unit or whether it's multiple units. And then it gets loaded into a queue to await the outbound transportation. If we're talking about something like a small parcel order, which is going directly to an end user, whether it's UPS, FedEx, DHL, USPS, which is the post office, a lot of times your good will go directly into the truck upon its picking. Now there may be 1,000 other orders like that order going to different destinations, but you would go pick that order with a bunch of other like orders, label it appropriately to go to its destination. Then it would get placed in the truck with a bunch of other orders which go to that, let's say it's UPS, go to a sort facility, and then that night it gets sorted and sent out directly to your customer. If it's something like an LTL order or an FTL order, full truckload, less than full truckload, your pallets of orders would get picked based on the PO that they ship to, which is primarily dictated by the destination that they're shipping to in the vast majority of cases, but not all cases. You can potentially have multiple POs going to multiple direct distribution points. But in the case of that, you would have the orders all picked together, wrapped up together, and then labeled with the compliance labeled. If it's multiple pallets, it'd be pallet 1 of 1, 1 of 2, 1 of 3, whatever the case might be is. And then the carrier would be scheduled to come and pick up that material. And generally speaking, in that case, they wouldn't come just to pick up your material. Any good 3PL would be leveraging that pickup against multiple other pickups and multiple other channels to get you the best possible price point. And then the orders go directly out to either your distributor or your end user. So in a nutshell, that's order fulfillment at a high level through all of the channels.
Fantastic explanation, Mark. Thank you very much. I do have a couple questions that came in. The first question is, you were just talking about the carrier. Is Scarborough also able to arrange that LTL and FTL to the end user for our company?
Yeah, absolutely. So Scarborough has relationships with pretty much every nationwide carrier in every kind of method possible. So we have the ability to arrange transportation for all of those cases, ensure those pickups are met, and all of the compliances related to the pickups are met. And then provide back not only the bill of ladings and all of that information from the pickups, but the tracking information both directly to the supplier and directly to the end user as well.
Fantastic. I'm going to add to that as well. Scarborough also has a really great LTL pricing tool that is a smart pricing module. So you can enter your information and basically get in their 24/7 online portal and get several different carriers' rates. And you can kind of piggyback on some of our rates too, that we have excellent contracts with several different carriers. So definitely reach out to us if you want to take advantage of that. The next question that came in is asking if, and I'll take this one, if Scarborough can also handle the import transportation for any of the goods that need to go into the fulfillment center? And the question, or the answer is, of course we do. That's something that Scarborough prides itself on, is its U.S. customs brokerage and import transportation. We have multiple carrier contracts, as well as some really cool consolidation programs that really set us apart from other freight forwarders. So definitely talk to us about that if you're interested, and we will help walk you through that as well. So let's move on.
All right. So fulfillment models. So when we talk about fulfillment models, there are four main types that are most common in the industry. So the first is the B2B model, and that is direct business to business. And simply put, it's basically selling your product directly to a business, whether that is a bulk supplier or a distributor, whatever the case, you're just selling a bulk quantity of good directly to a business. The second model is B2C. So B2C traditionally represents e-commerce and .com retailers, whether you're selling stuff through Amazon, Walmart, Chewy, any of those .com websites. Typically with B2C, you're selling directly to the end user. The quantities can vary, but traditionally you're looking at a low quantity of goods sold directly to those. And when I say low quantity, I mean usually under 10 total units. The next model is consumer to consumer, C2C, which is one consumer selling directly to another. Something like eBay, Craigslist, Etsy, those kind of things represent C2C fulfillment models. And the final most common one is the C2B, consumer to business. And that's not typically that traditional or something anyone's really thought about, but in the age of the whole B2C, what you're looking at here is kind of the reverse logistics aspect. So you're looking at your goods coming back through the channel, whether they're coming back directly from your distributor point or whether they're coming back directly from the end user. And this is often when a company is looking to set up e-commerce sales, or even, B2B sales. It's honestly one of the most overlooked points and one of the biggest cost buckets that people really just kind of forget about planning for, more or less. So scaling your fulfillment model. So when we talk about scaling fulfillment, the most common questions I like to ask people when we're looking at, doing fulfillment services for them is, how many SKUs does your business plan to sell? Because that matters. The more SKUs you have, the more different types of material you have to sell, the more orders you're going to have, the more volume you're going to have, all of those kind of things. And then how many orders are you currently shipping each month? So if you're shipping 1 to 5 orders a day, that scale matters. If you're shipping 100 orders a day, then it really matters, because you're looking at a whole bunch of repetitive processes and a bunch of compliance-based type of things that you're going to have to do consistently to repeat. And then on top of that, you're looking at a very large-scale time investment to get that kind of thing done. Then the next question you need to ask is, how many orders do you predict you'll be shipping in the next month, the next 3 months, the next year? Is your business seasonal? Because most things that are taken to market have some kind of seasonality to them, where they're purchased more often than not. And scaling your fulfillment model based on that really is something that you have to take into consideration, because you have to understand where your costs are going to be, but you also have to understand when they're going to be. Are there certain months where I have more costs than the next month? Does it make sense for me to use the same type of model throughout the course of the entire year? All of those kind of things. And then the final kind of point is, how do your orders get fulfilled? Are you sending them out in bulk? Are you using UPS, FedEx, UPS, USPS? You need LTL carriers, FTL carriers, all of those kind of things. And if you need those kind of things, does it make sense for you to set up your own accounts with those, or does it make sense for you to leverage what the 3PL brings to the table? And that is kind of a bulk consumer pricing model where you're taking advantage of all of the units that are sold through for all of the clients of the 3PL through those models so that you get the best price possible. So if you're new to the world of e-commerce, your fulfillment strategy is going to look very different from a large retailer that is taking a great number of goods to market and has for several years. The number of products you sell monthly, weekly, daily plays a big role in, figuring out the solution that works for you. And that's kind of why I said earlier, everybody's fulfillment model is different because it's so much dependent on the commodity that you're taking to market, the seasonality of that particular product, and then how large the product is, how small it is, the weight of the product, and a myriad of other factors which go into basically planning your fulfillment model, or as the slide says, scaling your fulfillment model to meet to find a method that best meets your needs. So there's no one box stock approach to fulfillment. Fulfillment for every different kind of product is its own beast, and through every different shipping channel changes drastically.
So Mark, you mentioned size of your product. So true or false? If I have a very large product, should I use Amazon FBA?
Amazon FBA is geared for products which fit into kind of a nice, clean, cartonized box. So Amazon FBA really doesn't like products which are larger than 12 by 12 by 9 boxed. And they can sit on a shelf and maximize the volume of the bin and the space. So when everyone thinks about Amazon, they think about it must be a very large building that these goods are housed in. And in many cases, Amazon DCs can be over 1 million square feet, but there is a great number of products in that 1 million square feet. And to Amazon, space is money. And those bin spaces represent a direct dollar figure to them. Amazon wants to turn that bin, and they want to automate the processes as much as possible. And the ways that they do that are by having a uniform product that fits nice, neat, and clean in a bin that some sort of automated picking system can pick, label, scan, fulfill, and all of that. So Amazon gears their pricing traditionally to being cheaper for products that meet that. When you go into a bulky good, a heavy good, something that requires human intervention, your cost goes up drastically. Additionally, for Amazon, if you sell a product where your product is, kind of sold in Amazon, set up in Amazon in bulk, where it doesn't turn a whole bunch of times, you're going to pay a greater amount of storage costs because your product is not turning. The heavier the product, also, the more your storage and shipping costs are going to be. The bulkier your product, in some cases, Amazon will just say, hey, this is not something we offer Amazon FBA services for because it just takes us too much work to do the fulfillment on your product.
So to reiterate, somebody with a product that's larger than 12 by 12 by 9 should use a 3PL outside of Amazon.
They should absolutely, at a bare minimum, investigate the differences between the costs. You're never going to do yourself a disservice to get a multitude of quotes through various different intermediaries. And what I mean by intermediaries is fulfillment channels. So if you're thinking about doing Amazon FBA or utilizing Amazon FBA, you would be completely doing yourself a disservice to not investigate the cost difference between using FBA, using a 3PL, or based on the amount of orders that you have, using the potential of drop shipping models directly from your manufacturer as well. But when traditionally speaking, when you have a bulky, overweight good, a 3PL is going to specialize in the fulfillment of that type of product and be able to get you a much more price advantageous rate.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
So what do you want to avoid when it comes to order fulfillment? So the first point, choosing a warehouse location close to your office. So traditionally speaking, from a logistics standpoint, when you're looking at setting up an order fulfillment station, people want to be next to their inventory or close to their inventory at least, right? They want something that they can travel to quickly, cleanly, easily, and be able to have some sort of span of control. But the thing that you really need to consider when you're looking at the factors of where your warehouse should be is, where are the bulk of your customers? If the West Coast of the United States makes up 60% of your customer base, and you're located in downtown Kansas City, Missouri, then it doesn't really make sense for you to have your warehouse in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. It would be far more advantageous for you to utilize something like our Reno warehouse, or some sort of warehouse on the West Coast where, one, you're cutting down the number of shipping days to go directly to your end user, and two, you're substantially reducing your shipping costs. Now, that may mean that you have less overall trips to that warehouse every single year or month or whatever the case might be is. But the biggest advantage that you can possibly have for both your business and your consumer is expeditious order shipment directly to your customer, getting it there as quick as possible, and getting it there at the lowest possible cost. Additionally, the less miles that good has to travel, the more likely it is to arrive there in one piece, complete and in a good working condition for your customer. The next point is assuming that Amazon FBA is right for your business. So as we talked about in the previous slide, there are some products and some type of business channels that Amazon FBA is definitely good for. But there are also other channels where Amazon FBA will be cost prohibitive to your business, and just directly go against your bottom line and take away that profit margin. Additionally, Amazon FBA is not going to, when you're doing some kind of startup where you're not yet sure of what your sales are going to be, and you're working more so off of forecasted numbers for orders, based on kind of your initial beta testing, Amazon FBA may not be right for you at that point, because they're not going to want to store your goods for a long period of time where they don't turn quickly and all of that, and you're just going to be incurring a high amount of cost for the potential opportunity for Amazon to take your goods to market. So in the case of that, definitely investigate all of those different cost channels. Really think through, what does this look like if my projections for sales are 50%, 75%, even 25% of what I think initially for a period of time? So then that way you have a good understanding of where your cost buckets are going to be and what it takes to get that out. Additionally, Amazon is not big on specialty type of things where they're having to do much outside of just putting the item in a box and shipping it out. I mean, I think everyone here has probably got a box from Amazon where you have a 3x3x5 box inside of a 14x10x12 box, and you're just like, this makes no sense. So keep in mind when you're taking your goods to market that may be something your product incurs when shipping through Amazon, whereas with a 3PL, your span of control for how your good ships and how it's taken to market is much, much more controlled and concise based on the specifications that you've outlined to your 3PL service provider. The next one is sacrificing quality and levels of service for costs. So what that means is not all 3PLs are created equal, right? A lot of times 3PLs or certain 3PLs will give you a very, very low cost point. And it's choosing someone strictly based on cost shouldn't be something that you do. In all cases, do your due diligence, investigate why it's so cheap. Is the service offering that they're giving you the same as what your expectations are? Is the service offering that they're giving you the same as these other channels that you've investigated? Because when you're doing a startup or when you're taking your goods to market, period, you want to ensure that you're standards are being met, corners aren't being cut, safety precautions for your products are being taken to ensure that your orders get to your customers in the correct quantities, on time and in full. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is that your customer gets the good that they paid for, either at the time they expected it or ahead of when they expected it. So cheap doesn't always mean you have the best possible method. Sometimes you have to pay a little bit more to get the quality that you're looking for. In all cases, whether that's with a 3PL or any other shipping company, you should work with somebody that has a proven track record that can verify the thing, and you can verify the things that they are telling you, whether that's through customer testimony, whether that's through direct metrics from the channels that they're shipping through, Amazon, Walmart, all of those things. You want to find somebody that can walk the talk and meet your needs and be an extension of your business and help you grow. The next one is fail KPIs and expectations during negotiations. So a lot of times during the startup process, people will kind of not have a good understanding of what KPIs they're looking for. And when I say KPI, what I mean by that is the measurable metrics that you want your shipping company to adhere to, whether that's 99% of orders filled on time, same day, whether that's your quality standards are met 99, 100% of the time, and that the orders are filled in full more often than not. The best possible way for you to ensure that your standards are hit are if you make all of them clear and known during the negotiation process from the very start, prior to even signing a contract. Any good 3PL will allow you to do a test scenario where you bring some goods into their company and run a test shipment, whether that's a single container, a single shipment, whatever the case might be, for them to prove to you that they can meet the standards that you have set forth and get the goods to your customers on time. Anyone that won't allow you to do a test scenario should definitely raise some red flags. And the final point is forgetting to investigate and negotiate shipping rates. So this kind of especially lends itself to those bulky, overweight, oversized type of goods. When you're doing your investigation process and kind of mapping out what your costs are going to be to take your goods to market, whether that's in bulk or whether it's in a single unit directly to an end user, you want to be sure to investigate, hey, what is this going to cost me to ship on a consistent basis at these standards? What is it going to cost me to send directly to this person's house? Because there's different things that affect that. Because if you're sending orders to a city, the rate is going to be one thing, but if you're sending orders to mostly rural users where there are not a lot of other stops around it, there are extra charges that are incurred because of that. If you're sending orders that are big, bulky, heavy, that require extra handling, special handling, there are additional charges associated with that as well. So failure to plan for those unforeseen charges and unknown charges is another risk to your business that a good 3PL will help you circumnavigate and, bring to the table and say, hey, this, based on what I see with your products, these are potential charges that you may incur. Have you planned for these? Have you thought about this? Are you aware of these type of things? And then additionally, a good 3PL has a good relationship with all of these different shipping points and can help negotiate better rates for you in lieu of all of those things. So what to look out for? Communication is the biggest part of any kind of a relationship when you're working with a 3PL where you're not doing your own direct shipping. Communication, both internal and external, is the key to any successful business. And it's vital in the world of e-commerce fulfillment, not only between the buyer and the seller, but communication between the fulfillment center and the buyer, the fulfillment center and the seller, and all of the possible areas back and forth in between, and whether that communication is electronic or whether that communication is via phone calls or emails or whatever the case, the better that communication is, the higher your chance for success. I've stated earlier, you want your 3PL to be an extension of your business. You want them to have the same kind of goals in mind for growing your business as that you do, and have a good understanding of what your expectations are, and not only expectations, but what your thought process is around your business and what the acceptable standards are and all of those kind of things. So the next point is accuracy. So the accuracy of your inventory is key, because the accuracy of inventory is directly tied to sales. So whether your inventory is on a vendor website, or you're looking at the fulfillment level, whatever the case, you want to get the right product to the right buyer, in the right quantity. You don't want a whole lot of, inventory errors. You don't want poor inventory management where you're making sales through a channel for goods that you don't actually have to sell. So a good 3PL will have methods and procedures to alert you to low inventory, and that ties back into the communication piece where you're talking back and forth and you're being proactive about reducing the amount of risk associated with that inventory accuracy and kind of product accuracy, as it were, so that everyone is on the same page. Scarborough, during the course of its fulfillment journey, has a 99.8% accuracy rate at the fulfillment level, which is considered world-class. Transparency and responsiveness is the third point. So what that means is just good old-fashioned customer service, being willing and able to address the issues that you have, finding a quick resolution and being responsive. Now, whether that's to the issues of the direct customer that you have or the distributor, or issues that you have, somewhere along the way, you're going to run into some kind of an issue through some possible channel. And that whole customer service thing just plays a large scale key in that process. You want a 3PL that is, when you pick up the phone and you go to call or you send an email, is responsive to that email, and you're not waiting days or weeks to get some kind of an answer, or months. So that transparency is really key. And when you're going to do the whole investigation process through those channels, that's definitely another question that you should ask. Hey, what is your standard turnaround time for if we ask these kind of questions? And the final point, free shipping. So statistics have proven that the average consumer will pay more for a product if the product includes the whole free shipping premise. However, the thing that you personally need to plan for is shipping is not free, whether the consumer thinks it is or not, and it comes at a direct price to the seller. Somehow, some way, through all of those channels, shipping cost is either included or comes at a cost directly to your bottom line and your profit margin for that good. So anytime, like if you're selling Amazon FBA or Seller Central or Vendor Central or whatever the case is, the thing that you need to be asking is, how much are my shipping costs? What is it really truly going to cost me to get this good in the hand of the person that ordered it? And additionally, 3PL services can help you steer clear of all of those mistakes, simply put, because they have the experience in dealing with them through a multitude of different channels, and help work with you to offer solutions directly related to the pain points that you feel when you're taking your good to market. Everything from inventory management, late shipments, trucking company relationships, all of those types of things to help you best circumnavigate the market. So your fulfillment checklist: gather a clear understanding of vendor compliances and requirements. So every single different channel that you're sending your good through is going to have a set of expectations for your good. In some cases, they can be as simple as just they require the pallet to be labeled with the final destination and show the quantity, and you have to send a bill of lading. Or they can be as specific as label placement within a standard as tight as 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch, because this good is going to a facility where it is going to be received by some sort of automated process, or special standards for compliance labeling, or special standards for pallet type, for good placement on the pallet, all of those different kinds of things. I've seen compliance guides as simple as a single sentence on a page, and I've seen other compliance guides that are 168 pages long and very, very specific. So gathering a clear understanding of what your vendor compliance looks like also goes a long way to understand what your shipping costs are going to be.
So before you get into that, Mark, can you explain here who they is? Who would a vendor be? What is an example of what a vendor would be in a fulfillment scenario?
So a vendor in this case would be the intermediary that you're selling through. So if you're selling through like Amazon, or if you're selling through Walmart, or if you're selling through like Chewy.com or anything of that nature, if you use their services to host their product, even if you're not having them do the direct fulfillment, they still require you to meet their standards to ship a product to the customer that ordered the material through their website.
So basically it's a retailer.
Yes, it is a retailer, 100%. Yep.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Mm-hmm. So the second point, have a clear understanding of your fulfillment costs. So everything from the costs of getting your good inspected and received into the facility, all the way through all of the points that we discussed at the beginning of the PowerPoint and in the previous point above, to taking the good directly to market, whether that's through a retailer channel or whether that's directly to an end user. Leveraging shipping price points through contracted carriers. So in some cases, if you're doing shipments like UPS, FedEx, DHL, and you're consistently doing amounts of shipments, you definitely can benefit from advantages and price points based on volume. But the same thing is true through LTL carriers too. If you're going to send out a lot of large bulk orders on a kind of weekly, monthly, bi-monthly interval, then it's definitely advantageous to have work through the potential of having a contracted carrier that you work with all the time, and you're leveraging not only that price point against the amount of the material that you're sending this time around, but that you traditionally send all the time around. The next point, establishing advanced shipping notifications with carriers. So what this means is just establishing a system with the carriers, and any good carrier will have this capability where your final end user customer can get information about the status of their shipment. Whether it's scheduled to pick up on this day, shipped on this day, scheduled to arrive on that day, all of those kind of things. That's just another added piece to that communication pie, where the information is readily available when requested, and can be seen by anyone, anywhere, regardless of the method that they're trying to look at it through. The next point, invest in a warehouse management system. So any good 3PL will have a warehouse management system to allow you to see your orders in real time as they're being processed, and the status of those orders in the warehouse that's doing the fulfillment for you. Additionally, you can see your inventory on hand. You can, through any kind of a method, affect that inventory, whether that's putting inventory on hold, putting inventory on quality hold, whatever the case is. A good 3PL will have a warehouse management system that not only allows them to fulfill your orders for themselves internally in the most efficient method, but it also allows you to have a span of control as well within that process. The next point, take advantage of automated data collection. So that whole automated piece is key, whether that's, being able to set up direct downloads of information to and from, or whether that's to get reports to and from, or tracking numbers, or whatever the case. The automated processes are definitely more accurate than anything where you're looking at a lot of manual intervention and hand entering. So the more advantages that your 3PL and that your warehouse is able to take of automation to where the processes are automatically happening and happening in a more efficient manner, the better off they're going to be. The next point, establish a start to finish plan for reverse logistics. So what that means is returns. And we talked about this a little bit previously, but we'll expand upon it here. Returns can come through a multitude of different ways. You can get them directly back from your end user. You can get them back from a distributor. But you need to plan for how you're going to handle returns. And so that means is if you're talking about directly from an end user, how is that end user going to flag an item for return? How are they going to get a shipping label? How are they going to know where to send that good back to? And then how are you going to either issue a replacement unit, or how are you going to refund their purchase price? And then what's going to happen with the good after they returned it? You need to set up criteria for inspection of the good upon return, and then a plan for, is that good going to be returned to stock? And if it is going to be returned to stock, is the packaging still in good condition? Does it have to be repackaged? What all is needed to get that good either back into a known good condition that meets all of your specifications so it can go back out to market, or if that good does not meet those specifications and can't, is it something where you can utilize parts off the good, or do you have to destroy the good? And then in addition to that, there may be some advantage to even investigating the destroy in field premise, where if the good is beyond a certain condition, you just have your end user directly destroyed in the field so you don't incur the shipping costs, and the good is just taken out of circulation and out of service. So there is cost associated with all of those pieces of the puzzle, and establishing that start to finish plan and a span of control for how you're going to handle it is key for a good fulfillment process. The next point, keep multiple lines of communication open. So we talked about communication in some of the previous slides, but just to get back to it and reiterate again, that communication point is key. Those conversations about not only your expectations and what your customers' expectations are, but a good 3PL will be able to tell you things that they see, potential methods of failure, potential error avenues, or things like that to keep your business safe, keep your goods safe, and to ensure your customers get the best experience possible. There's no such thing when you're taking orders directly to market as over communication, not only of your expectations, but your 3PL's expectations and the things that they see to help keep your customer engaged and safe and your orders flowing. The next point, minimize touches, value stream mapping. So when you're talking about setting up order fulfillment, whether that's internal to you or whether that's internal to a 3PL, your 3PL should be able to tell you what all the steps of their process are. And when you outline what your expectations are, they should work with you to map out those steps in the process and say, okay, this is what we're talking about. These are the steps in between those channels, and this is the cost associated with every single one of these steps, and this is the time associated with that step. So this is how long it takes from the time that your order is entered to the time that we can get the order out the door and in the hands of your customer. Understanding that is key to being able to meet your customers' expectations. Additionally, it will allow you to understand factors which you may not have thought about before. As soon as you start putting the steps directly out on paper, one of the biggest revelations I continually see are, well, we didn't think about this, we didn't think about that, we forgot about that. Sometimes seeing those kind of things in real time is key to your overall success. The next point, practicing ongoing cycle counting. So we talked about the whole inventory control. So cycle counting is a provision of inventory control. So what cycle counting is it's counting the amount of inventory that you have on hand physically versus the systematic count that your warehouse management system has. So what you're doing in this case is you're either taking a daily count of a certain number of products and saying this count matches, or you're doing it quarterly or biannually or just a single time annually based on how your product turns. But having some kind of plan for cycle counting and inventory control is something you should definitely discuss with your 3PL. And you should also discuss the accuracy of that count. What is an acceptable accuracy to you? Are you willing to, have less accurate inventory, or do you want to have your stuff counted on a continual basis to ensure your inventory is accurate and that you can fulfill the orders that your customer presents to you? And the final point of this, hire a fulfillment center with a proven track record, someone that can walk the talk, as we talked about in the previous slide, and is able to give you data and customer testimony around the levels of service that they are offering, and ultimately is willing to bring you in and show you the processes directly in real time. When you're working with the 3PL, they should encourage you to come and take a tour of their facilities, see what goes on, and just get a feel for not only them as people, but their service offering directly in person.
Wow, that's a lot of information, Mark. And it's a great checklist. So is this something that Scarborough could just take care of for me?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. We offer every different level of intervention for clients. We have some clients that already have all of this stuff established and are, just looking for us to meet their already established standards. And we have other clients where this is their first time ever taking a good to market, and all of these things are kind of unknown for them. And we're basically walking them through the process as we go and letting them know all of the pitfalls to be aware of and what is typical for a fulfillment servicing process. So we can absolutely offer whatever level of service is required based on the level of intervention that the customer feels is necessary. And when we do our initial contact with the customer and our initial calls, I kind of feel out, where everyone stands and what information that they have available and what their experience level is in this process. And then based on that, I will offer varying different levels of service.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. So best practices. So to expand upon the previous slide, outsourcing your e-commerce fulfillment needs to a company that can receive and manage your inventory for you, fulfill your orders through numerous channels to numerous different vendors and in numerous different disseminations the same day prior to 3 p.m. Understand the compliances associated with that. And so compliance is not only your internal compliances that you have for your product, but the compliances of each retail channel that the good is shipping through. They can handle the reverse logistics of the goods, returns. So their ability to do all of this allows you to buy inventory in bulk, focus on marketing and branding of your product, and put your money elsewhere. So essentially what this slide is telling you is you want a 3PL that can handle all of the order fulfillment strategies, inspection, all of those kind of things for you. So that way you can spend your time marketing your products, working on additional products, not spend money on warehousing, large equipment, and fulfillment services and strategies outside of the costs that you have for your 3PL to service your account. As we've said previously, a good 3PL should be an extension of your business. So again, what to look for in a fulfillment center: same-day order fulfillment. They offer you the ability to garner price position when it comes to discounted shipping rates. That they have the ability to have 100% inventory accuracy, order accuracy, and fulfillment rate. They have a good understanding of any and all compliance requirements, both internal and external, through the retail channels. There is complete transparency. They talk to you about the potential pitfalls you might encounter, the things that they see with your products, known failure methods and points, all of those. They offer you a customized fulfillment service that meets specifically your needs, not just a box stock service offering. And this is big because a lot of, whether it's a 3PL service or something like Amazon, what they offer you is a box stock service offering. They tell you, this is what we offer, this is how we do it, this is our method. And a good 3PL will customize your fulfillment method to what best fits your product and best fits your consumers' needs. The next point, dedicated customer service. So that's customer service not only to your order fulfillment, but customer service when it comes to the communication pieces, being an extension of your business, watching out for your business and your products and your customers, all of those things. And as the final point says, is a true extension of your business and a valued partnership, something where you both look to grow together and build together.
And that's something that Scarborough definitely prides itself on, is just acting as if we are part of your business. So we definitely customize solutions and we establish those personal relationships, and we definitely help walk you through anything that you need.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, your success is Scarborough's success. Those two things go hand in hand.
All right, let's talk about vendor compliance. Can you explain again what exactly a vendor is in a fulfillment model before we start on this?
So your vendor is primarily the retail channel that your product is selling through. So each different vendor is going to have their specific standards that they specify your product to meet in order to come in their facility to be sold. So let's take in the case of Amazon FBA. If you're going to sell to Amazon FBA, they have specific set standards that they require the product to come in meeting in order for them to accept the goods. So in the case of that, some examples, the pallets must not exceed 72 inches in height, and that's the height of the pallet, the height of the goods on the pallet. All of those things have to meet that 72-inch height requirement. Something like it requires blue shrink wrap to be placed around the product in order for it to be shipped and accepted. Must ship LTL, less than truckload, with carrier XYZ, because some of these retailers and vendors have contracts with shipping companies already, and they require that you ship with that company and that you set up appointments to deliver directly at their facility. And in some extreme cases, you have to hit 1 to 2 hour windows for delivery, or they have accessorials where they require a dock lift because they don't have a dock high dock, or they require a pallet jack, or all of those different kind of things. Some other possible ones: every purchase order must have its own individual packing list, and this is a direct Walmart standards, and all POs must ship together fully complete on the same pallet. All shipments must include a master packing list along with the individual packing list directly on the pallet. All shipments require compliance labels, and compliance labels can be very complex in some cases. I've seen compliance labels that have anywhere from 10 to 12 barcodes on them directly that outline a whole bunch of different information based on what the requirements are for the facility that they're shipping to. UCC 128, which is a barcoding standard, must be placed in the bottom right corner. Placement must be on the flattest part of the shipping box, exactly 2 inches from the box edge. The boards on your shipping pallet could be no less than 2 inches apart and no more than 1.75 inches apart. And all of the top boards on a pallet must be uniform and consistent. So what that means for you really at the end of the day is there are all of these standards that could possibly be in place that your vendor requires. And if you don't meet those requirements, they mean large scale fines, suspensions by the vendor that doesn't allow you to sell the product through them any longer. It is very, very important, and it is often a very overlooked potential failure point that the seller and the fulfillment team don't understand and review the compliances set forth by the vendor. One thing Scarborough definitely prides itself on is having a good understanding of vendor compliance, and a lot of the customized solutions that we offer for people include a review of all of those compliance guides. So we'll take your compliance guide that's 168 pages in length, literally, and break it down for you into a 1 to 2 page sheet of these are the things that you need to know. These are the high points that directly affect your product. And this is the potential failure and cost if this is not met. And then this is our customized solution and service offering to you for how we meet these.
Okay, so I do have a couple other questions, and I know that we've got some other slides that we'll get these answered on as well coming up, just talking about Scarborough services. But the first question I have is, how does Scarborough handle holidays and fulfillment?
So in the world of e-commerce shipping, there basically are no holidays. A lot of the major holidays are also very much major shipping days through e-commerce channels. So for each one of our clients, we offer a customized solution. And in some cases, that means that on major holidays, we are working and fulfilling orders. There are also known ship by and kind of cut dates to meet. Having the hands directly in your customers, or having the goods directly in the hands of your customer by those days. So Scarborough works directly with all of the carriers that are used by these retail and vendor channels to ensure around holidays that the good gets in the hands of the customer prior to the holiday happening so that there's no delays and wait time. But additionally, based on the commodity, part of our customized solution offering may very well be to offer fulfillment services on those holidays to meet your customers' needs and ensure your product continues to go to market and meet the things like Amazon's expectations for 2-day Prime around holidays and all of those kind of things.
Excellent. I've got a couple of questions here involved with interfacing. The first one is this client would like to hear more about the interface between e-commerce platforms like WooCommerce and fulfillment services, and how does that interface work?
So each one of those interfaces is kind of its own specialized thing, especially in the world of EDI. So backing up from there, whenever you're selling your inventory through those different channels, those connections cost, and they come with a cost based on the number of transactions that go back and forth between intermediaries. And what I mean by intermediaries is your warehouse management system and that software. So that transaction back and forth between the two has a cost associated with it. So traditionally, when you're looking at making those connections and selling through those channels, one of the first things you need to ask, especially if you're doing a startup, is what is my daily volume of orders? So what I generally tell people, if your daily volume of orders through that channel is less than about 200, all of those services offer you another way to get your orders off of that. And generally they have some sort of an order downloader that you can utilize. And what this allows for is it allows for the orders to be pulled from the system via a kind of Excel-based download, whether that's a CSV or whether that is a XLS Excel spreadsheet. And then any warehouse management system allows for the upload of orders into the warehouse management system based on that transmission. After you get over the 200 order a day mark, generally that is in excess of what a CSR can process from a order standpoint directly with having to do uploads, order entering, and all of that. And then it comes time to offer a customized either EDI or API solution to directly make that connection. So those connections for each one of those websites looks different. Each one of them has their own requirements around, this is the structuring that we want to see our information pulled out under, and this is the information we require back and in this kind of format. So Scarborough has the ability to look over what those standards are, because they're a lot like vendor compliance. They require certain things at certain times and certain intervals in a certain structure. And it just requires reviewing those structures and customizing and building that solution to meet the needs, to make that connection as smooth and seamless as possible.
Excellent. Now, what if I don't want to use EDI or API? Can I just email you my orders that I get for the day?
Absolutely, you can. And usually when you're emailing the orders, that allows you to go directly to the website and download those. So Scarborough offers even customized solutions to that end. We have clients that email orders directly and go in and do their own work and from those vendor and retail channels and download the orders and send them out to us. And we have other customers that allow us to have a login for their websites, and we go in and do all of the PO management directly on the website, everything from downloading the orders to uploading the tracking and choosing the shipping methods and channels that the order goes through. So that's just another possible avenue based on our relationship with the customer and whatever their expectations are, that Scarborough can offer a customized solution for.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I think that after this, we can just walk through all of our services. I was going to cut off the webinar, but I think I'll just allow those to continue on. So thanks everybody for joining us. If you want to stick around, we are going to go through all of our warehousing services that we offer. And I guess I'll let you take it away, Mark. The first question is Amazon is Scarborough able to handle Amazon? And what are the different ways to fulfill orders sold on Amazon?
Yeah, so Scarborough is absolutely able to handle Amazon. And through every one of Scarborough's warehouses that we have, we take a client's goods to market directly to Amazon. The first method is kind of outlined in the slide above is Amazon FBA, which is fulfillment by Amazon. So you would have, as a seller, you would have a page directly on Amazon, which you set a certain amount of goods to be held in varying different Amazon DCs. So in case people out there don't know, domestically there are 102 different Amazon DCs. Amazon FBA, based on your commodity, there are generally about 43 DCs in the United States that handle FBA specifically. So FBA being fulfillment by Amazon, when you're sending there, you're basically sending a replenishment PO to Amazon of a good for them to sell for you. So your 3PL would be housing your goods in bulk, and Amazon would send you a replenishment PO that says, we need this many goods of this particular part number to be sent this week, this month, this whatever the case, directly to Amazon, and this is the warehouse that we want it to go. This is how we want the pallets to be structured, because Amazon will get as specific as saying we may want these two products shipped together, or we may want none of the products shipped together and we want all of them separate. So then for FBA, generally Amazon would handle the transportation. You provide them the weight and dims of the pallets that you set up. You put on their shipping labels and receiving labels for them, and they set up the trucking and send you the bill of ladings and say, this is the day that it's picking up, this is the carrier, these are the POs that we want in this truck. It might all ship together on one truck, or it may ship in 10 different trucks. You just never know what specifically Amazon is going to say. Or additionally, Amazon might tell you, this isn't going to ship LTL, put these small parcel labels on it and send it to us that way. So it just depends. Amazon Seller Fulfilled Prime. This is where you're looking at, kind of the e-commerce portion of the business, where we're saying your orders are coming in, you're hosting your products on Amazon's site, taking advantage of the widespread, kind of Amazon scope that gets all of these different people visibility of your product. And then the 3PL is doing the actual fulfillment of the product directly to the end user. So essentially what we're doing in that case is we're taking direct, real customer orders directly to that end user. We're holding your inventory, and then we're going out there, picking the inventory, putting a small parcel label on it, and sending it as if we were Amazon directly to the end user. The final one, Amazon Vendor Central. So Amazon and the majority of your inventory is stored at the 3PL. When the inventory runs low, Amazon will send in a PO, and the 3PL picks and sends in just more of the inventory directly to Amazon, which goes directly to an end user. So that's part of the whole PO management process. Generally, in that case, Amazon has a third and very different set of specifications which they require to be met. For these vendor POs, as a vendor, you typically, or a seller on Amazon, you typically have more control over the shipping method. And that's where you can kind of utilize the 3PL's ability to, and relationships with various different shipping channels, to find the most cost-effective method to get your product to where Amazon is telling you to send it.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can you tell me the difference between direct to consumer fulfillment, like an online order fulfillment that goes direct to the consumer, versus a drop ship? What is that drop shipping model? How's that different?
So as we've talked about in the PowerPoint, that direct to consumer fulfillment, simply put, is just getting the hands and your good in the hands of your consumer in the simplest possible method with the lowest possible amount of steps. Essentially, your consumer orders the product through your online retail or vendor channel. The order is fulfilled as if it's your own warehouse and sent directly to the consumer's home. You pay the shipping through some sort of negotiated rate and method based on the shipping channel, and your customer has its good. So the drop ship method, you still utilize those same kind of softwares potentially to sell your good, but you're selling your product through a wholesaler to a retailer. So the consumer would order the product through that channel, whether, let's say, for saying sake, it's Amazon, and the order is fulfilled through the warehouse. The retailer pays the shipping, and then the product is sent directly to the customer, and you get a consolidated monthly invoice with your charges, not only for the product, but for the shipment of the product as well. And the relationship continues on.
Okay, reverse logistics. What is reverse logistics, Mark?
Reverse logistics, simply put, is the world of returns. So when we're talking about reverse logistics, we're talking about some sort of optimized process for goods that are being returned to your distribution point or to you directly as a seller based on what your requirements are from either your retail channel, your vendor, or your direct end user. The biggest thing with reverse logistics is establishing that criteria. And the criteria is what is acceptable to be returned, how is it acceptable to be returned. In the event that any one of these channels wants to return the good, what do they do? How do they get the information? Once they have the information, how do I meet their expectations? Then once the good ships, how do I manage and control my cost of that good shipping? Once it arrives either back to me or back to my warehouse 3PL, what happens to the good then? How do I segregate this good away from all of the rest of the known goods I have for sale in the facility? What inspection processes do we have to either scrap the good, return it to stock? How do we receive it into our warehouse management system so we can see it and know the state that it's in? How do we get it back to, if it is acceptable and meets all of our standards, how do we get it back to a good known state in a cost-effective method to allow it to be sold back through our retail channels again and get back in the hands of our customers so we can realize the revenue from the good. Simply put, good management of reverse logistics allows you to avoid future mistakes, whether that's issues with revisions or known failure points, or being able to realize and mitigate negative perceptions of your brand based on those returns. And then additionally, how does this encompass exchanges? How do we manage? Someone says they want to return this good. One of your end users says, this didn't meet my expectations. This part of the good failed. How can we get that good exchanged for a known quality unit that meets all of those expectations and get it back in the hands of the customer? So that reverse logistics piece additionally is something that should be well thought out, mapped out, all of the costs understood, all of the steps in the process understood, the time associated with each, understanding the communication points, the points at which communication is appropriate with the seller, with the vendor channel, with the direct end user, all of those kind of things to ensure that the process flows, is seamless, and everyone in the process understands what the current step is and the next step is so that everyone gets what they expected.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for joining us. This wraps everything up. If you guys have any questions about fulfillment, please email that ecom@scarborough-intl.com to receive a free consultation today. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Mark, for all of your expertise.
Yes, thank you everyone for your time today.